Hello class, sorry I am not here today. My son is sick. You need to have your green packets open to page 7. So green packets open to page 7. We're going to be doing more of the same thing that we did yesterday. So this isn't anything new. It's exactly the same thing. If you feel like I'm going too fast, feel free to pause the video to catch up. That's the nice thing about it being a video. Yesterday we talked about 45, 45, 90 triangles, and we talked about how if you have a triangle that has the 45 degrees in each of the corners and then the right angle, we can use this little triangle with the 1, 1, root 2 to help us set up proportions and to solve for missing sides. Now either the triangle will have the 45-degree angle marks here, or it'll have the two sides marked congruent, or it'll have these two angles marked congruent. One of those three options is going to occur, and once you have that and you know triangle with the 1, 1, root 2. The root 2 should be the hypotenuse, and then the 1s are the two sides that kind of make this L shape here. Alright, so we have this triangle here, and what we're going to be doing is we're going to be labeling the missing sides with an X and a Y. It doesn't matter where you put the X and where you put the Y. You could set up a proportion for X. Alright, we can draw our little triangle off to the side with the 1, 1, root 2, and you could set up a proportion to solve for X. However, make it easy on yourself. In a 45, 45, 90, these two sides are always going to be congruent, the two legs. So in this triangle, this leg and this leg, those are always going to be equal. So if this side is 6, then we know that this side is 6. So save yourself some time and don't even bother doing a proportion for X. We know that X has to be 6 because these are going to be identical. So then really all we need to do is set up a proportion to solve for Y, because Y isn't equal to anything. Y matches up with root 2. So we're going to make Y over root 2. Let me make my pen a little skinnier here. And then we know that like 6 matches up with 1. 6 matches up with 1. And then what we're going to do is we're going to cross multiply. So we end up with Y times 1, or Y. And then on the other side we're going to be doing 6 times root 2. You cannot multiply the 6 and the 2 and say 12, because the 6 is outside of a root and the 2 is under a root. So the only thing you can do is just kind of squish them together. So Y is going to be 6 root 2. And that's it. You're done with your answer. Okay, number 2, same thing. You're going to want to put an X in one of the spots and a Y in the other spot. You can draw your little triangle off to the side with a 1, 1, root 2. And we could set up a proportion for X. However, it's like the last one. We know these two legs are equal. So if this leg is 7 root 2, we know that X is also 7 root 2. So save yourself some time and don't even bother setting up a proportion for X. Y is the only thing that we need to set up a proportion for. Y matches up with root 2. And then 7 root 2 matches up with 1. Make sure you use the same triangle on the top for both fractions. Now we're going to cross multiply. Y times 1 is Y. And then we have 7 root 2 times root 2. So the upper right times the lower left. When we multiply these, remember you can only multiply numbers that are both under the square root together. So the 2's can be multiplied together. The 7 can't really be multiplied by anything. So we're going to have 2 times 2, which is 4. Square root of 4, so what number times itself is 4, is 2. So really, square root of 4 is 2. We still have a 7. 7 times 2, 14. So Y is 14 and X is 7 root 2. Again, all I did was root 2 times root 2 is root 4. The square root of 4 we know is 2. And then we still have the 7 in front. 7 times 2 is 14. And then number 3. This one we're going to label our sides x and y. We know that these two sides, x and y, have to be equal to each other. I don't know what they are yet, but all I need to do is solve for one of them, and then I know the other one will be the same. So let me set up my triangle off to the side. I have 1, 1, root 2. And I'm just going to solve for x. Whatever x happens to be, I know that y will also be the same. This one is about as hard as it gets. So if you understand this one, you'll be fine. X matches up with 1, and 14 matches up with root 2. And you're going to want to cross multiply. So when we cross multiply, we have x times root 2 equals, and then we have 14 times 1, or just 14. And we did one like this yesterday. We want to get rid of the times root 2. To get rid of the times, you would want to divide by root 2. All right, because you want to get x by itself. So to get rid of the times root 2, we divide. When we divide, these cancel. So we're left with x equals 14 over root 2. And if you remember from yesterday or even last week, you cannot leave a fraction with a square root in the denominator. So to get rid of the square root, you multiply the top and the bottom by square root of 2. This is where people were getting confused yesterday, because what we did was we divided by root 2 and now we're multiplying by root 2. It seems kind of silly. But the reason why we're doing that is because it will get rid of the square root in the denominator. On the top, we have 14 times root 2. You cannot multiply those together because one's under the root and one is not. So you just kind of smush them together and you say 14 root 2. On the bottom, root 2 times root 2, that is root 4. You can multiply those together. The square root of 4, we know, is 2. So really I have 14 root 2 over 2. So all I did was simplify square root of 4 and turn it into a 2. And now I can reduce this thing. I have a 14 on top and a 2 on the bottom. Both of those are not under a square root, so I can divide. 14 divided by 2, I get 7 root 2. And that's going to be my answer. So x is equal to 7 root 2. And luckily, we don't have to do any work for y. Y is going to be the same, 7 root 2. So those are going to be my answers. Alright, so this is as hard as it gets. It might be a little tricky, but you're always going to end up dividing by root 2 and then multiplying the top and bottom by root 2. The more problems you do, you'll realize that we're doing the same thing pretty much over and over again. Alright, let's do a couple of them at the bottom. We're going to skip number 4. We're going to go to number 5. Number 5 and 6, we did ones like this yesterday as well. I would recommend drawing a picture. We have the perimeter of a square is 16. What is the length of the diagonal? The diagonal goes from one corner to the other. We don't know what the diagonal is. That's what we're trying to find. Now we know the perimeter is 16. So that means if I add up all the sides of this square, I'm going to get 16. Well, it doesn't mean that each side is 16. It means that when I add up all 4 sides, I get 16. So what you need to do is if you're given the perimeter, you got to divide it by 4, because we know it has 4 equal sides. 16 divided by 4, we know that each side is going to be 4 meters long, because 4 plus 4 plus 4 plus 4 is 16. All right, and if you want to just look at one small section of it, all right, you have this triangle, which has a 4, and an x. And it's a 45, 45, 90, because we're dealing with a square. Anytime you have a square with diagonals, it makes a 45, 45, 90. So we can draw the 1, 1, root 2 triangle again. And all we're doing is solving for x. So x matches up with root 2, and then 4 matches up with 1. And then from here, all you got to do is cross multiply. So x times 1 is x. 4 times root 2 is 4 root 2. You cannot multiply the 4 and the 2 together to make 8 because one's under a square root and one is not. So it's just 4 root 2, and we can put meters. And that's it. You're done with the problem. Okay. The last one, this time gives you the diagonal, and we have to find the perimeter. So we have the diagonal is 11 root 2. I have no idea what any of the sides are, but I do know that the sides are all equal. So if I find out what x is, I'll know what the other three sides are, and then I can find the perimeter. If you focus on just one part of the picture, the triangle, we have x here and we have 11 root 2 here. Again, it's because it's a square, we know it makes a 45, 45, 90. So we can draw our triangle with the 1, 1 root 2 off to the side. From here we're going to set up a proportion. X matches up with 1 and 11 root 2 matches up with root 2. And we're going to cross multiply. So you get x root 2 equals 1 times 11 root 2 is just 11 root 2. And this one's kind of like the problem up above, number 3. We want to get rid of the root 2, so we have to divide. To undo multiplication, you divide. This one, though, is going to be a lot better than number 3 because what happens is when you divide by root 2 on the left, they cancel. And when you divide by root 2 on the right, they also cancel, making it a lot better than number 3. So we get x equals 11. If x equals 11, we know that this side is 11, and then all the other sides will also be 11, because the square, all the sides are the same. Now we can answer the question of what is the perimeter. Well, perimeter means you add up all the sides. So we had 11 plus 11 plus 11 plus 11, or 11 times 4, giving you 44 yards. And that's going to be your answer. Okay, so try it out, see how you do. The assignment is on the very next page. So what you should be working on is page, let's see, what number is it? You're going to be working on page 8. There are a total of 6 problems that you should be working on. When you are done, call the sub over and check your answers. Alright, you want to make sure that you're doing this correctly because we are learning another special right triangle tomorrow. So you want to make sure that you're getting the main gist of this before we move on to new material. So check your answers. You can keep the key. You can use that to help you prepare if you need to go to the resource room or anything like that. You know where the resource room is and you can go during your study hall. So I hope this helps. If you do have any issues, hopefully the sub can help you. And I will see you tomorrow. Thanks.